Between betrayal and redemption, the journey of Judas Iscariot. On a dark night, Judas Iscariot sits alone reflecting on his choices. He feels pressured by expectations and the impending betrayal, thinking of the promises of redemption and the dreams that led him to follow Jesus. Delve into his internal dilemmas where love and ambition collide, revealing a man tormented by doubt. The ultimate decision to betray his master is not merely an act of treachery, but a desperate cry for understanding and a place in the world. As the shadows approach, Judas yearns for forgiveness and meaning in his life. Judas looks up at the stars, trying to find a sign. He remembers the first day he joined the disciples. Jesus' gaze, filled with hope and compassion, touched his heart. He wanted to be part of something grand, something that would change the world. But as time passed, he began to feel increasingly distant. The promises of Jesus were inspiring but also left him restless. The ambition for power and influence grew within him. He dreamed of a kingdom where the oppressed would find justice and freedom. Yet what he saw were crowds gathering not only to hear the word, but to demand a Messiah to save them from their misery. He wondered, was the Master really willing to fight this battle to the end? That night, surrounded by darkness, Judas cannot sleep. The weight of his decision is overwhelming. He sees no way out. For him, betrayal is not an act of malice, but a gesture of desperation. He believes that by delivering Jesus, he might force him to fully reveal himself, to take the action everyone expected. The idea that he could be the catalyst for great change torments him, yet also offers a thread of hope. On the day of the betrayal, Judas heads to the garden where Jesus prays. The sound of his footsteps echoes in the stillness of the night. Each step is a reminder of the love he feels for that man. He hesitates as he approaches, Jesus' words echoing in his mind. Love and forgiveness are the keys to the kingdom. But caught in a mix of fear and ambition, he advances. As he kisses Jesus, the act that seals his fate, Judas feels a deep pain. Jesus' gaze is piercing and full of sorrow, but there is no hatred. The expression on his face reveals understanding, as if he knows Judas's internal struggles. In that moment, Judas realizes he is both a traitor and loved, a paradox that will consume him. After the betrayal, Judas retreats, overwhelmed by guilt. He walks through the streets, hearing whispers of condemnation, but also cries of hope. Inside, the battle between love and betrayal continues. He wonders if it is truly possible to be forgiven. He knows his actions may have been motivated by a desire to help, but the outcome was pain and disillusionment. In the end, Judas surrenders to his fate, seeking redemption in his final act. He cries out for a forgiveness he fears he does not deserve, tears streaming down his face. In his mind, a last vision of Jesus, surrounded by light and love, promises that true redemption goes beyond what he can imagine. And so, he bids farewell, wishing that his story is not just that of a traitor, but of a man who sought in the darkness the light of understanding and forgiveness. Judas sits in a dark corner, surrounded by shadows that seem to swallow his hopes. The weight of betrayal tightens around him, and he feels his heart heavy as a stone. He made a choice, but what was meant to be an act of courage transforms into an abyss of guilt. His hands tremble, not only from weakness, but from the terror consuming his soul. Inside, he cries out for forgiveness. The image of Jesus, serene and full of love, appears in his mind. Judas recalls the moments of teaching, the kindness in the words, and the deep gaze that always understood him. Even in his pain, there was a ray of light emanating from that man, making him question if there is still hope for him. "Master, I have sinned," he whispers, tears falling like rain on a cloudy day. "What I did cannot be undone." As the night progresses, his mind travels through memories, the shared laughter, the witnessed miracles, the feeling of belonging to the group. He recalls the warmth of the community and the certainty that, alongside Jesus, he could make a difference. But now, everything seems distant, like a lost dream. In the midst of despair, an inner voice calms him. True redemption goes beyond what you can imagine, it whispers. Judas ponders this. What if forgiveness existed? What if he could somehow transform his pain into something meaningful? He rises, determined to seek that answer, even if he has already crossed the line. As he steps into the streets, he encounters familiar faces, but feels rejection and hatred in their gazes. The words of condemnation echo in his ears, but he presses on, feeling that the true battle is internal. He needs to confront his own reflection, and perhaps the only way to find peace is to face his pain. In the square, he kneels and shouts, "I am Judas, the traitor, but I am also a man who loved and now seeks forgiveness." His voice reverberates, and for a moment, everything seems to silence. He allows himself to feel the pain, not only his, but that of all who have suffered. This empathy touches him, transforming shame into something more, a desire for redemption. If I can at least do something to bring light to this darkness, he thinks, as an idea arises in his mind. He stands and begins to walk, not to hide, but to expose himself. Determined to share his story with those who also feel lost, Judas starts to speak to those he encounters, sharing his struggle, his love, and his regret.